Hey, good night, everybody. Jeff here from Defensive Shooting Skills. No, it's been about 2 weeks since we did a YouTube or a podcast. Running a little bit behind holidays, everything else. So, welcome back. It's going to be an interesting night. We got several things we want to talk about. We want to go over things that are like a Roe versus Wade, some of the mass shootings, some of the new gun laws. There's a few things in there that I don't quite understand. And then oil prices. I know Biden, he's lying to us. He lied to us right square in TV. Lied to us several times, even about stuff with Hunter. So we're going to discuss a little bit about that. So we have a guest with us tonight. We have Dylan Konibas with us. Dylan's a friend of mine, and his last name's hard for me to pronounce. I'm just terrible with names. But Dylan and his wife took our class here a couple of months back. We got to be good friends with them. So asked him to join us tonight. Aunt Audrey's she's in Washington, D.C., Gettysburg, and Myrtle Beach over the holiday, so she'll be back at the end of this week. So next week or the week after, hopefully we can get her back in. We want to do a live show again with kind of a panel I'd like to have Dylan come in, Audra, Jennifer Hendricks, a lot of you may know who she is, and just kind of have a live show where people can call in. So it's going to be an interesting night. We got some things going to be very controversial. It's just crazy out there, guys, man. It's just absolutely getting nuts. So with that being said, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, Dylan.
Sure. So I'm originally from the home state of Arizona, the original cowboy state. Well, I guess Texas is a cowboy state too. Born and raised. We moved up here to Michigan just a little over a year ago, and we are enjoying the Michigan weather. I do not miss being in 115-degree heat in the middle of July. And love the lakes, love the scenery out here, lots of green. We survived our first Michigan winter, although I heard it was kind of mild.
Last couple of years have been pretty mild.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll take it.
Only thing I like me being from Kansas City when I first moved up here, it gets colder in Kansas City than it does here.
Does it?
Oh, yeah, because there's just nothing. Lake Michigan works like a thermal blanket. But Kansas City, that Canadian air comes right across the Rockies.
Good.
Kansas can stop nothing.
Just like a dry
cold. It's a very humid cold. I mean, it's cold. We might have days there where it might be 6, 8, 10 degrees below zero for 2 weeks.
Wow, that's pretty cold.
Things like that. I put it this way, growing up, I used to do rabbit hunting. And we had beagles that used to run the rabbits. And I had a beagle that ran up on a rabbit and it was just sitting there and it wouldn't move. And the beagle was running around it and the rabbit was frozen solid. So, I mean, that stuff happens. I don't miss that. I don't miss it at all. I don't miss the hot, humid temperatures there in Missouri either. The only thing I don't like about Michigan is I wish the summers were a little bit longer than about 12 to 13 weeks. I wish they're just a little, add another 4 or 5 weeks to it. That'd be a little bit better. But it's nice to see in the seasons, though.
And that is something a little bit different than they had in Arizona too. So summers would start about just the end of May. So about May 20th, schools would get out. So you had summer all the way until end of August, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you start summer late, like June, I think 3rd or 4th was like my kid's last day of school this year.
Kaylee's was like the 15th, 17th, something like that.
That's summer.
Yeah.
Summer. So.
We always got out, when I was in high school and stuff, we always got out the end of May.
Yeah.
Like the 3rd week of May, something like that.
That's how it was for me growing up too. 3rd week of May, that was.
And then the Tuesday after Labor Day, you went to school.
Yep.
I don't know. They're talking about, we need it this way because of the winter snow days and stuff like that. I don't think we had very many winter snow days the last few years, just a couple.
I think the kids had 2. They did all the Michigan tricks. They told me about, putting the dime or something in the toilet and sleeping with something under your pillow.
Okay. These are new things I've heard.
They were like kids that teachers and friends at school told them to do these, and then maybe they'll get a snow day. And I think we had 2 snow days, and the kids would try these to get snow days because they wanted to go play in the snow. And I mean, it was fun. We enjoyed but it did drag on. Winter did kind of drag on a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing. I mean, I was like, I came up here doing investigations. I came up at Easter time. And I remember being over in Muskegon, and it's like April, and it snowed like 2 inches. I'm like, what? Come on, this is crazy. So, but hey, at least in the summertime, it doesn't get sweltering hot. I mean, we might get a couple of days, if we're lucky, where we hit 100. Mid 90s, mid upper 90s is a hot summer day. And they usually only have 3 or 4, maybe a week in a row, and then it drops back down in the 80s. So it's not too bad. Just warm enough you can go swimming, things of that nature. So
Definitely enjoy it up here.
yeah, it's a nice state. So, and you've been through the UP and up in Mac and all that stuff. So that was pretty.
Yeah, we did get to go through the UP this past week. We drove through it. I didn't get to stop and do a whole lot. Actually, we did stop. We stopped at Miners Castle, which is up by Pictured Rocks, and it was just beautiful.
We did the Picture Rocks cruise with her mom and dad several years ago. We went up there, and I got sick as a dog. I mean, the water was nice when we started, and after we were literally on the water probably 10 minutes, and storm blew up, and that water just up and down and up and down, and we were down underneath, and where it was warm, and we're like, oh my gosh, because we went up in like June, and it was still cool up there in June. So I went back up on top, and I'm sitting there, and it's like, as a matter of fact, they thought I was having there was a couple of nurses that were actually on the boat, and the way I was looking and stuff, they're like, we think you might be having a heart attack. Here, chew on an aspirin, and as soon as we got back and it calmed down, I just felt bad, but I wasn't sick anymore. Fed the fish a couple of times, and then life was good. But Picture Rocks is gorgeous up there. It's pretty gorgeous. But they say the big lake up there, Lake Superior, and even Lake Michigan, they say that it's more dangerous than the ocean, because when a storm blows up, because it's the depth of it, it gets big waves really quick.
Yeah.
So
my neighbor was just talking to me about how Superior is deeper than both of Michigan and Huron combined. It's the deepest of the biggest lakes.
Yeah, I think I don't know how many 100 feet it is. I think Lake Michigan goes like a couple 100 feet or 300 feet, and Lake Superior is Lake Huron is the shallow one.
Yeah, Huron is shallow.
But Lake Superior, but up there, if I ever won the lottery, I guess I'd have to play it to win it. But if I ever won it, I would love to live in the UP. Even if the winters are worse and stuff like that, who cares? Leave me alone. So
it's quiet up there, and it's beautiful.
Except for Bigfoot and UFOs.
I'll take those.
And pasties. So
all right.
Okay, the Yoopers. So for all the Yoopers out there, welcome. So we were over the weekend on Saturday. We were over at your house helping you work on where you're working on the camper, and we were talking a little bit about Roe versus Wade and things like that, which is very controversial. And this is crazy. I mean, the one thing that drives me, it actually is really, really is nuts, is the right and the left, the differences between the right and the left and the way they handle things. I mean, when Roe versus Wade first came in, nobody burned anything down. Nobody tried to destroy anything or threaten to kill anybody. Then for 40 years now, they've been working to get that reversed. They finally get it reversed, and the left, you would swear, is, the world's come to an end. And it's an attack on women and things like that, but it's really not. I mean, it really didn't change a whole lot of things. It just basically gave the power back to the states to make their own laws and decide what they want to do.
Exactly.
It's not like you hear them watch on the news that they're saying, oh, they ban abortion. No, they haven't. They just took it out from a federal level, put it back in the states, because there is nothing constitutional about it.
No, it never was in the Constitution. And there's nothing that ever should have been federal about it. The courts brought it in, and from my understanding, the way it is now is no doctor is going to deny someone an abortion that is medically necessary, right?
Sure.
That's just not what they do, right? But what I don't want is I don't want my federal taxes paying for abortions.
Mm-hmm.
And now what it does is like you said, it gives the power back to the people. My body, my choice. Well, now it is more your choice. You have more access to it, as opposed to the federal laws. They could have said no.
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
not going to grant you this abortion. Whereas now it's up to the state, which is more local, which you have more influence over your state than you do over federal regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where people really didn't understand, especially a lot of these younger liberals or lefties or whatever you want to call them. These people, I think they're missing it. They just don't understand it. the news feeds you this mantra that now we can't have abortions. Well, no one really needed to be having abortions in the first place unless it was medically necessary.
Sure.
And I mean, we can talk about the reasons for those.
I'm anti-abortion for the fact of using abortion as a convenience for birth control, or because maybe a child was going to be born with Down syndrome or something like that.
Yep.
I mean, I'm against that. I can understand it in terms of if somebody was raped or incest or something in a medical necessity, say like when they do the quad test and they find out that there's not even a brain didn't develop.
Yep.
You know, there's just a stem. That child's not going to survive outside the womb.
100%.
You know, or something of that nature, or it's a medical condition to where that child, they know there's like one condition that they were talking about, that the baby is the bones are so brittle that they don't develop, the bones don't, that when the baby usually dies in labor because it's literally crushed to death. You know, I can understand things like that. I can understand where if they know for a fact that child is not going to survive, or the mother or the child may not survive. I can understand that. I'm not for it, like I said, as a means of birth control or convenience.
I agree with you 100%. And honestly, my wife would be a great person because she knows she's a neonatal nurse practitioner, and she knows all the medical terminology.
I want to get her on here soon.
For babies that can't come to term, or if they are come to term, they're incompatible with life.
She deals with it on a daily basis.
She deals with it on a daily basis, and she sees it. That's still, I mean, the woman's body is going to go through that trauma. And to be honest, my little sister, she got an abortion. She slept with a boy that she didn't want to continue having relations with, and then she found out she was pregnant. Well, I watched her over the years go through like depression and anxiety, and she just had a hard time with relationships for a while. I mean, she flip-flopped between boys and girls and in between and what have you, and she finally found a good guy, and she just had a baby, and he's like, his name is Mordecai, and he's about 5 months old now, and I'd like to get back out there in Arizona to see him and meet him. But just her persona changed after she did that, and this was probably 5-6 years ago this happened. And you know, during that time in between, she really struggled. She really struggled with depression a lot. And I feel like if abortion becomes so what's the word I'm looking for, convenient for everyone, it's not going to, it's just going to push people onto drugs to cope with all these symptoms that they're going to face, because postpartum depression, you're going to have that no matter what. I mean, it happens. I would say probably 90% of women get postpartum depression.
Sure.
And that's a killer.
Well, I know with my view on, like I said, not as for medical things I can understand. I know there's a lot of very far right and things like that, and even in the Christian circles and stuff that would probably, you know, condemn me for what I said on that. But, you know, well, then let nature take its course, you know, and I can understand their point of view too. But, you know, we all have our opinion on that. And, you know, we have to, we're the ones that live with it. But there was a movie out there a couple of years ago about the lady who worked for an abortion clinic. I can't remember the name of it. She worked for Planned Parenthood. And in this movie, she kind of laid it out, kind of made it was like a movie, but almost a documentary kind of movie. And with her Christian beliefs and stuff. And she said that in this movie, they portrayed it that actually most women that have abortion end up going through more psychological problems for having that abortion than if they'd had the baby and maybe gave it up for adoption or something like that. Because, 100%. You know, it's, you know, that's still a human. I'm a full believer that life begins at conception.
It does.
You know, the minute there's that, you know, what is the male and the female zygotes or whatever, when they meet, that to me, that's when life starts. I mean, you look at a baby, there's pictures, you look at a baby at 20 weeks old, they have a face.
They have a face. They have fingers.
They can feel. I watched these videos. I mean, I sat here one night and I was watching a video. It was on thing where a baby was aborted, and they actually it was actually still in the sack, and it was moving around fighting because it was now oxygen deprived and everything. And it was just, I mean, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I just can't say it. And the left wanting this full term abortion, or actually, what is it, 30 days after birth?
That's insane.
That's just flat murder.
That is 100% murder. And, you know, I mean, I'm a theorist, conspiracy theorist. So, I mean, I can understand maybe why the left wants that. And this is going to blow your mind. Ever heard of the thing called adrenochrome?
No, I haven't.
Adrenochrome is the adrenaline that is produced in infants and young, I wouldn't say young adults, but children.
Mm-hmm.
And so out of fear, your body produces this adrenaline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they extract that adrenaline after creating fear, and
oh, that's just sick.
It's very sick, and they extract it, and then the elitists, they use it to make them younger.
That's just, well, the thing is, what's weird is a lot of the stuff that are medications and even stuff, and even they're talking about even like the COVID vaccines and stuff, a lot of that came from stem cell, fetus stem cell, and things of that nature on the research. And
so if they want to be able to abort at 30 days past, that's 100% murder, and they're doing it for their own reasons, and those reasons are evil.
Oh, that's absolutely
just evil.
We become an evil society.
We have.
I mean, it's sad. I mean, life today has no meaning. It seems like it's just, yeah, whatever, you know, even in kids and things like that with the mass shootings, younger ages and stuff doing this. I mean, Monday, a kid that Kaylee goes to school with right down here, just 5 blocks from here at college in Leonard, was shot in the chest and killed, 16 years old.
What was the reason behind it?
Nobody knows yet. All I know is they said the witness said that there was a kid going down the street. 3 boys approached him on bicycles, had masks. We don't know yet if he was one of the kids with a mask or if he was the kid that was walking. All that hasn't really come out yet. They haven't announced it. I don't even think they've released the name yet. But
they won't release the name because it's underage.
He was 16, but there's a life that's gone.
Yeah.
And it's schools today, they're talking about, my daughter goes to a prep school here and it's part of Charter Academy. So Charter Academies, I hope you're listening, get it together. She goes to a prep school up here and there's fights in the halls constantly fights. Neighbors on our Creston neighborhood thing with the Ring doorbell are posting, kids are vandalizing this when they get out of school. And they get out of that. We actually had kids throw stuff up in our yard trying to hit that hippo thing we have out there, walking down the sidewalk. And we had to go out there and say, hey, knock it off. I mean, keep walking. It's just kids have no respect for anything anymore. And I don't want to, I know some of the reasons and I know a lot of them. We all probably do. People need to be parents. I'll just say it. Be parents.
Be parents. Yeah.
Don't stick your kid in front of Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto because it keeps their mind occupied. You don't know what you're programming there. Again, like I said, one video we had with Audrey said that by the time a kid reaches 18 years old, they estimate that they've seen over 2 million rapes, murders, and violent crimes. They become desensitized.
They do become desensitized. And I think that's, this is going back to my conspiracy theories, but I
don't think it's conspiracy. I could see that all day long.
I feel like that is what society has pushed this newer generation towards, at least millennials and younger. I mean, that's all we know. All my friends grew up on video games, and I mean, I grew up playing video games, skateboarding, I hung out outside a lot too. But I didn't sit in front of a TV. Like, my parents didn't let me sit in front of a TV for hours and hours and hours of time. And I think that's where it comes down to is this generation of kids, their parents just, they handed it, especially when smartphones and tablets started coming out, like they just got these kids these expensive devices and then put shows on for them all day. And I'm a parent. I do it every now and then, but I limit my kids' access. They don't get to watch TV or YouTube or play video games all day. They have a minimum of 2 hours. They also have to read throughout the day, and then they have to play outside, for a couple hours.
Well, that's like Kaylee one year when she was probably 7, 8 years old. She was watching a lot of Disney Channel. And, I mean, I grew up on Disney and they had the Sunday afternoon or the Sunday Disney movie and everything. And it seemed like everything back then was very wholesome and very family oriented. And, we started noticing some attitude changes in her, just the way she was acting towards us, to wanting her to do things and things like that. And then we started watching some of these Disney shows, and we found that she was picking up traits and stuff that the kids on the shows there had, growing up with one parent families and or parents that are working all the time and never around to actually be a parent. And it's like, no, we had to limit. It's like, no, you're done with Disney. You're done.
And that's a good call too. I think you were telling me the story over 4th of July weekend, and I started kind of noticing how my girls were acting towards me, and based off what kind of shows I've been watching. I mean, my one daughter, she's almost 8, and she's like hooked on Power Rangers right now, but it's like the old school Power Rangers. So I'm like, that's cool. That's 100% cool. My other daughter, she's watching some Disney show, and I really pay attention to her because I noticed her attitude has kind of changed. She's being a little bit more whiny, and she's had more of an attitude. And so, I grounded her. I said, no, you're done. You can't watch. You're done with your tablet. You're done with this. You're done for a whole day. You know what I'm saying? Until you can change your attitude, we can talk about it tomorrow.
Wait till she gets to be 15.
We'll see.
15 going on 25. That's what I say.
Oh my gosh. I'm just going to cherish what I have now. They're at camp right now. We took them over to Camp Rutgers, a nice Christian camp out here in Rockford.
Yep.
And I hope they're having a great time. I was real nervous because it was a 4 nights kind of thing. And
where did Kaylee go? She went up there with Annie several years ago, a few years ago, and it was a Christian summer camp.
Was it the one up towards Newego?
No, this was over. Was it Camp Rogers? No, this was called like Green Pines or something like that. It was. I can't remember. No, it was actually it was west of 131. So, yeah, we get emails from. But she had a blast.
Yeah.
I mean, next year, like when I was growing up, I went to kids camp every year, and then was kids camp, and then became youth camp. And one of my very best friends he's my mom and my aunt used to say that he was my male soulmate. My friend Dexter, and shout out to Dexter. He's a pastor in Holden, Missouri at Forward Community Church. And his brother Shane is actually a pastor in Troy. And I want to take you guys over there sometime. We'll go over on a Sunday or drive over and visit. But Dexter and I met as I was like 18 and he was like 17, 16. We were both lifeguards.
Oh, cool.
And just sitting out there. I mean, it was an actual camp to where they didn't have a swimming pool back then. You swam in
the
Lake of the Ozarks, in the lake. And we sat out there for 5 days because it was Monday through Friday. Got there on Monday, so it was actually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then part of Friday. We sat out there 4 days, just became buddies, and have been friends ever since. And I mean, he's like the friend. He's the type of friend that I could go 3 years without seeing, and that the minute we see each other, it's like it starts off right where we left off.
That's a good friend.
And Dexter's awesome, and it was Assembly of God camp, and now he's a Baptist pastor actually. But he still has ties with them growing up in the youth group and stuff like that. So he actually went down there this last summer, and his kids went to the camp, and he worked there at the camp. So I asked him, I said, can I send Kaylee down to you guys? Or are you going to go back next year? He said, oh, absolutely. I said, can I send Kaylee down so she can go spend a week in a camp where I grew up?
Right.
And, which to me is kind of, I guess, a sentimental thing. But it's just kind of cool. It's kind of cool. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, parents, man, I challenge all you guys, be parents. Don't just shove your kids in front of a TV and let the TV raise them. Be a parent. I mean,
you have to.
We become a, and this is one thing I'm kind of happy about, is we've become a society that's all about me. Not about helping each other, about me.
I call it the instant gratification society.
Great way to put it. Absolutely. So, but yeah, it's just when what used to be taboo to us growing up is now acceptable to the next generation.
And that blows my mind. It really does.
So it's just absolutely crazy with things that's going on. So, but Roe versus Wade, I mean, like I said, people, research it for yourself. Don't take the media's word for it, the news's word for it. They've got an agenda out there. If you got to think, if people didn't watch the evening news and half the stuff that's going on, we'd all probably get along better anyway. It's just they want to keep things stirred. There's things that are just things that aren't right. But research it for yourself. Roe versus Wade has nothing to do with it's not. They're not abolishing abortion. They're not outlawing abortion. They're just put it back into the power of the states to what the state wants and how the state wants to regulate it. I mean, there again, if you don't like it, don't go burn a building down or cause a riot or some stupid stuff like that. Vote it out. If you don't like the people who are in office now, vote them out. You know, just like everybody else has to do.
Or if you're super smart and you have some money, privatize some insurance for it. For
I
young,
was going to bring that up.
For young adults. All these new transgender reassignment surgeries, abortions. I mean, I'm assuming it's expensive, right? I know for my wife, she wants to have a diastasis recti surgery, which causes issues where it's basically a hernia. Her abdomen will not close back together. Her stomach muscles won't go back together. So they have to go in and laparoscopically reattach them. And it causes issues. Like you can herniate, and it also helps. It causes bladder leakage. I mean, that's pretty common after 4 pregnancies or 2 pregnancies or even 1 pregnancy, 1 bad pregnancy. You know what I mean? It happens. Okay. And insurance doesn't cover it. So this is going to come out of our pocket. It's $10,000 for this surgery. And I can't imagine the cost of a gender reassignment surgery is more than $25,000 or less than $25,000. And I'm sure an abortion is thousands of dollars too. I mean, and people don't pay them. So I don't want my taxes to pay for that.
I don't either.
And so if this puts it back to a state where a state says we're going to recognize abortion as something that we're not going to do, well, then privatize insurance for it. You know, pay X amount of dollars a month and then have this specific insurance. So if in the event you're a young adult and you make a mistake and you want to use this as your convenience, which I don't agree with, but privatize it. You know, put it back in the people's money.
If they want to play, they got to pay.
Exactly.
If they want to play, they got to pay.
If you want to,
you know, that way, if nothing else, it takes it from people who are such as myself, who are pro-life, such as yourself, for things of convenience and things like that. We don't have to worry about our money going towards that.
100%.
You know, if they want to do it, then it's you do it on your own. You know, if the state's going to allow you to have abortion and things like that, I don't want to pay for it. Make the person, if they're going to do it, they need to pay for it, either out of their pocket or, you know, maybe an insurance thing like that might be a way to go, just to kind of, you know, to try to appease everybody per se.
Right.
But the only problem is you can't appease everybody, it seems like.
No, and don't get me wrong. So, I mean, this isn't privatized insurance for issues that are deemed medically necessary, like we talked about rape.
Well, the thing is rape. They have the day after pill already that they give for rape, and that's not abortion. They give it to what it does is it causes the uterus to shed the lining, so there's never conception to begin with.
Yep. So I mean, if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not paying attention and you let all that stuff happen, I mean, let's just be responsible adults.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's really what Roe versus Wade comes down to is people don't want to be responsible anymore. No one waits to take accountability.
Well, one thing I have to give my daughter kudos for is she had a boy at school that she liked and liked her, and he actually would walk her home from school. And she's 15, getting ready to turn 16 here next month. Mm-hmm. He is 17, and he's the age of consent is 14 in Michigan, I believe. But he actually came up to my daughter and said, well, I don't think I need to can see you anymore because I don't want to get in trouble. And it's like, this is what he told her. I think there's more to it. So she's like, okay. But at 17 and her at 16, getting ready to turn 16, if something happened, he wouldn't have gotten in trouble anyway because of the age of consent and things of that nature.
And the Romeo and Juliet law and things
like
that.
So what I think had happened is I think he wanted it to go to a next level. I mean, I know boys, we think different than girls. Mm-hmm. I think he wanted to go to another level, and I don't think she was ready for it and just said, no, I'm not. I don't want to do this. And I think that he's like, well, I don't want to see you anymore is the more what I'm kind of getting out of it. So I'm proud of her for that she stood her ground and stood up for what she believes in her morals.
That's good.
So, yeah, I'm very proud of her on that. Let's talk about a little bit about these shootings that have been taking place. I think that over the holiday weekend, The big one on the news is the shooting that took place down in Chicago. But I think there were like 4 or 5 mass shootings across the country. And these things have got me kind of at the point I'm going, is there more into this? Is there something else happening? What's going on? Because they are making them, I think the media is sensationalizing it. They keep bringing it up. The person's name from the guy from the Chicago shooting down here, I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to glorify him.
No,
He's a sick individual. The thing is what they talk about right now, that just a few weeks ago, they passed a bunch of new gun laws. There were a bunch of them that the House wanted, and the Senate and them said no because they couldn't get the votes for it. So some of the things they passed, one of the things that I'm absolutely totally against that they passed was the red flag laws. I don't know if you're familiar with the red flag laws.
Why don't you remind me a little bit?
Basically, the red flag laws, it would be like a number where somebody could call in and say that I think you're a threat to yourself or other individuals, and they come take your guns.
Yikes.
At 2 a.m, basically kick in your door, take your guns, and you have to prove that you're not a threat. So they take your stuff, and you have to prove you're not a threat. So basically, that's against the 4th Amendment or of due process. You are now guilty until you can prove yourself innocent.
Yikes.
The thing I don't like about this is they have it to where basically almost anybody can call in. If you have, before you met your wife, I'm sure you dated other ladies.
Yeah.
Okay. When the relationship ended, did it end well or did it end on a bad note?
Some of them ended well, some of them ended on a bad note.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they end on a bad note, somebody come out, they know you have guns, try to get even with you. I'm going to get them, they got guns. They're dangerous to themselves. They've been doing this, and they would come to it, and then you have to prove yourself innocent.
That reminds me of, there was a big thing on Twitch going around where big Twitch streamers were getting house called on, and they'd be in the middle of streaming, and the cops would show up at their house because somebody would call in and say, hey, this person's going to harm themselves. So the cops would show up, and then, they're banging on the doors, and they're in the middle of their live stream, and they're like, what are the cops doing here? You know what I mean? And it's someone is just messing around. It could be that. That's terrible. You lose your guns, and then you have to fight for them back.
Mm-hmm. You lose everything. And the thing is even though it's a joke, the thing is even though you're innocent, once you've been accused of something like that, people will always have that
in the back of their head.
In that back of their head, that happened. It's like you just ruined somebody's life over being vindictive.
Yeah.
Or as a joke. That's stupid.
Hearsay is a real dangerous weapon, and in the court system, hearsay destroys lives.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? There's innocent people that get put in prison for X amount of years based on hearsay.
Well, and these laws and stuff, the thing is what I'm with the red flag laws and stuff, this kid down in Chicago, they had known that he had been planning this for weeks. He posted stuff on social media. They'd been to his house twice because he threatened to kill his family and the entire family, and they were credible threats, and they had been there, and multiple times and stuff like that, and nobody did anything. The police were aware of all this, and they never did anything. We don't need more gun laws.
Yeah,
and they just need to enforce the ones we have.
That's what really makes you wonder, like, why did our system fail us here? You know what I mean?
I think it's because we want our system to fail us in a lot of ways. When you got people that are violent criminals, they had a guy that was an illegal immigrant that came over, was found with more fentanyl, arrested with more fentanyl, enough fentanyl to kill like half the country.
Mm-hmm.
They let him loose, like he was in jail for like 18 hours, let him walk on his own, and then goes and kills somebody. I mean, this stuff's ridiculous. Who's going to be who needs to be held accountable for this stuff? Somebody does. Or, if we're going to let just violent criminals walk,
Biden.
Yeah. Let's go, Biden.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the mass shootings and stuff. And the thing is any of these laws that they just passed, they would already talk. I was reading an article today, and they said with any of the laws that were passed would not have stopped this from happening. Would not have stopped that from happening. We already have laws on the books that would have stopped it if they would have enforced them. There was nothing new that would have stopped or changed anything.
You're never going to stop a criminal from doing whatever it is that they want to do. They're going to do what they want to do.
That's right.
You can take gun. I mean, look at other countries that have zero gun tolerance. They still have crime. They still have deaths. They still have murder. People will find a way to kill somebody. I mean,
well, look at what is it? What's the country just off the coast of us? New Zealand.
New Zealand, yes.
Yeah, they banned guns and did everything, and they had a buyback, and they still have hunting and stuff. But basically, it's like you have a central location where your guns are held, like it's like a gun bank.
Right.
And then you have to go check it out, and you can go hunting, and you can only have certain types of guns, and you can go hunting. Say if you wanted to go pheasant hunting, but then you have to check that gun back in by a certain time.
Right.
So a guy goes into a regular like Meijer store or Walmart store, pulls a knife off the shelf, and kills 13 people or something like that. Multiple people in the store, stabs like 13 people died or something like that. But there was multiple people. Now New Zealand's like, let's ban knives. What's next? All silverware has to be gone, but sporks. I mean,
plastic sporks. I mean, you're still gonna hurt somebody. I mean, look at people in prison. They make their own weapons. Man.
Absolutely,
they make their own weapons. People are crafty, and people who are evil will always be evil. Okay,
yep.
And it's never going to change. Society doesn't change people. People change, and if people choose not to change, they will forever be that.
And if we become a society that promotes that, that's what we're putting out.
Yep. And I remember what was it, like 2, maybe 3 years ago? This video sticks in my head, and it makes me sick. Of the guy who went and shut up the mosque in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one? Is it a mosque? It's called a mosque, right?
Yeah, it was a mosque.
Mosque, yeah. He went and shot it up, and then dedicated his whole video that he recorded doing it to PewDiePie or whatever, and that just that makes my stomach hurt. You know what I mean? And how could that person be so belligerently just evil?
We live. I mean, I'm a Christian. I'm a licensed pastor. And you go read the Bible, you start reading Daniel and Revelations and things of that, and things are going to happen to the earth in the end of days. It's all happening. I mean, people can deny it all they want, but all they have to do is open that book and read it, and it's right there.
You're close.
I mean, yeah. It's like a blueprint there that's right there. So, evil is running rampant. What is acceptable to one generation to the next generation is not. And even then when they talk about if you can't get something done now, you look for the next generation to do it. So that's what's happening. Each generation, things have become more and more acceptable. Each generation, I hate to say this, is starting to become, I'm not saying everybody, I'm just talking about in general, is becoming more and more desensitized, more and more self-gratification, more and more evil in a lot of ways, just to put it in a, frankly, a word, evil. But that's all the Bible. We have to, and I'm don't want to get back on religion and stuff like that, but we need to, I hate to say it, the world needs to get on their knees and pray. That's the only thing that's going to solve, is going to, salvation for anything. But these mass shootings and stuff, I don't want to get off topic and run down the rabbit hole, but the mass shootings, like I said, they said that there wasn't a law in there that would have stopped it. We make sensationalize so much in the media and the news and all this stuff. I mean, when this happened, I turned it over the media and it was on, I saw nothing but that for 2 days on the news. And this guy, the shooting that took place in Buffalo, then they had the one in Texas just a couple of days later. The guy in Texas, come to find out, I guess the guy from Texas and the guy from Buffalo knew each other.
Of course. And
they were through social media. Mm-hmm. And because it was so sensationalized, this guy did the one down in Buffalo or down in Texas. Now the guy that happened over on the 4th of July, he had 2 firearms. He said he had a Smith & Wesson M&P 15. And then in his car, he also had a Kel-Tec Sub 2000. As soon as he ditched the M&P 15, they said that when he left, he dressed up like a woman to try to blend in with the crowd. They found his vehicle and they pulled him over. He had a Kel-Tec sub 2000 with like another 60 or 70 rounds of ammunition. He was going to Madison, heading to Madison, Wisconsin, because he had planned on doing 2 shootings, the one in Chicago and then another one in Wisconsin.
That's insane.
You know, so this guy, I mean, this parents know. I mean, come on, if you no, I know nobody wants to say anything or turn their kids in or do anything like that, but if your kid, I mean, if they're showing these warning signs and stuff, get them help.
Yeah.
You know, let's try to stop it before it happens. But yeah, the mass shootings, it's sad. I mean, the thing is all they want to do is every time now, once this came up, the gun laws that they just passed weren't enough. Now that shooting takes place, they're up in arms again about basically, I mean, let's just say it. They want guns. They want guns gone.
Right.
They want them banned. It came right out of this other one. When you listen to the House and stuff, they want to ban the Second Amendment. But what a lot of people don't understand is the Second Amendment's the teeth for everything else. You take it away, it's all gone. Yep. Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting.
You literally have nothing to defend yourself with.
No, it has nothing to people say, well, you don't need an AR-15 to go hunting. They say, one of the things you see people say, who needs an AR-15? Well, it's not that we need it. It's our right to own it.
Right.
The Second Amendment is a right. It's not a need. We just got through a tyrannical war with England. So basically, the Second Amendment gives us the right to protect ourselves if we have another tyrannical government. Again, like we talked about last week, people say, well, that doesn't happen anymore. Yes, it does. Ask the Chinese. People are being welded into their houses so they can't go out and get food because of COVID, or in their apartments and things of that nature. This stuff is still out there. Look at Venezuela.
Yeah, they're a socialist country.
Yeah, but all these things, it all happens. It's still happening. So these new gun laws and stuff, one other thing on the new one that there's one thing, I mean, there's a lot of things that I understand that I'm for and I can see, such as an enhanced background check on possibly minors that are trying to go out and buy a bunch of things like this, to give it a couple extra days so they can research and find out. I think mental records should be able to be open to where they can see what's going on and something like that. And I know my 2A friends out there in components are probably going to go, why are you saying that? It's because think about it. If they can save a life by doing something, by stopping it before it happens, if somebody does have a mental issue or something like that, I think that is the way to go. So if they can enhance background checks to where people, not I'm saying background checks for everything, but I'm saying 18 to 20 years old, things like that, if they need a gun, what's going on, let's check and make sure that somebody doesn't have a mental problem from before, even some adults.
Right.
Same thing. And I don't agree with raising the age of owning a firearm to 21 when we can say this is one thing that cracks me up. It's about the left. Okay. They came out and said at 18 years old, you are not mentally capable of owning a firearm.
But you are capable of serving for your country.
But we'll send you to war and hand you a firearm.
Hand you a handgun. Yeah.
Then they turn around and say, we need to lower the voting age to 16.
Oh my God.
If you're not mentally capable of owning a firearm or making your brain isn't developed enough that you can make these decisions, at 16, 2 years earlier, you're certainly not going to be capable of making decisions on voting and things of that nature. Here's the thing. This is where the hypocrisy comes in. We don't need firearms in this country because we don't have to war, we just don't need them. But we need to send firearms to Ukraine because these people need them because they're fighting for,
they're fighting a tyrannical Russia.
Right. Wait a minute. Isn't that kind of an oxymoron? I mean, that's kind of a hypocrisy.
It is hypocrisy, 100%.
So the gun laws, we got enough gun laws. We don't need to add any more. Quit waiting for every little thing to happen. Again, they say, don't let a good tragedy go to waste. Quit trying to add more gun laws. Enforce the ones we have. The thing is, the criminal, it doesn't matter. All these new gun laws that they're adding, only thing it's hurting is you and me and law-abiding people. Criminals don't care.
No, they'll find guns.
They're going to find them. Think about it. Obama was the biggest gun trafficker that there was. I mean, how many hundreds of guns did they send to the cartels in Fast and Furious? And they're still finding people that are killed from guns that were sold during that time.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. And I'm a firm believer that the only thing that's going to stop a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun. And they go back to in Buffalo, they talk about, well, the security guard was an ex-law enforcement and he still got killed. Well, yeah, he may have got killed, but How many people's lives did he save by at least slowing this guy down?
Yeah.
We don't know. One of the things that I'm mad that they took out that they had in there and they wouldn't, then the left wouldn't pass it if the right put that in there, was they wanted to enhance school security, fortify schools, school resource officers, things of that nature, adding that. Nope, they didn't want that. But what gets me is all these people, celebrities, our Congress people, things like that, who we voted in, who actually work for us,
have bodyguards,
and their kids go to private schools that are with
security.
armed security.
Yep.
And you get, Matthew McConaughey. I used to like Matthew McConaughey. I'd like to slap him upside his head. We needed the guns and stuff like that. When he's walking around with 3 bodyguards that have guns, is his life any more important than ours?
No, of course not.
I always had the thing. The reason I carry a gun because a cop's too heavy to carry.
A cop takes too long to get here.
Average response time is on a shooting or something like that is about 4 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. 3 to 4 minutes is a long time.
That's a real long time.
Especially when your life is when you're fighting for your life. But yeah, we just need, and there's also a saying, an armed society is a polite society. So here's a big one. We're talking about inflation and things like that. Oil, gas prices, they dropped down about 15 cents because that's the reason they're saying that is because of Biden's asked them to eliminate the gas tax for the federal government for so many months, which is good, but it's going to come back and bite us in the butt because that money that was going towards certain things is going to have to double up on it once they start activating it, once they re-engage that. I don't like the fact when Biden says that the store owners need to quit making so much profit and cut, lower their profit margins. Well, I know people that own convenience stores and gas stations, stuff like that. They have higher profit margins on a candy bar than they do on gas. A matter of fact, if you go into a lot of these stores, such as Quick Trip, when you walk in, right there where the counter is, right there next to the counter is what? The candy bar bars section on the stuff. Because they want you to see that when you're checking out, so they're hoping somebody will grab that because that's where their largest profit margins are.
Exactly, the convenience. And actually, I was just picking up candy bars yesterday with the kids, right? And I had to think to myself, I was like, oh my gosh, it is $1.79 for a Snickers. It used to be 79 cents. Everything has gone up about $1 in convenience stores. And, it probably costs, for them to buy, a couple cases of Snickers, it probably costs them maybe $10. Well, they have, in each one of those cases, is 24. So they're making good margins because of the convenience of it. That's the whole thing with stores. That's why they created, while you're standing there in the line to check out, there's the convenience candy, there's convenient drinks now, there's even lip balm and toys and stuff because it's a convenience. Your kids are there, you're going to grab it. They're going to make the margins off of that. That's how they make the margins. As far as like this oil business, it's I literally cannot fathom why it keeps going up and why it hasn't gone down yet. There was a thing that was everyone's like, we need to boycott oil for July 2nd through July 5th. 3 days. Just
that's going to do nothing.
That does nothing.
That does nothing. There used to be these things. These well, if nobody bought gas on this day, gas prices would drop forever. No, they won't. It just means the next day you got to buy double of it, so it balances itself back out. But the thing that upsets me is this: when the president gets up and says that there is a shortage of oil, that we are a shortage, so I'm going to release all this oil from our strategic oil reserves, which are our backup in case something ever happens, to lower the price and give somebody relief, and then come to find out that all that oil that he was going to release from the strategic oil reserves goes to China. That pisses me off.
Yeah, he lied.
He flat lied out to the American people.
He
And
sold
Steve
it.
Ducey, when he tried to, the press, the lady who's their press secretary,
Mm-hmm.
well, when he tried to bring that up, she shut that down. I'm not going to discuss that behind the podium. We're not going to discuss that right now behind the podium. And even another reporter from another news agency said, why did you try to cut him off? Why didn't you answer his question? Well, we're just not going to discuss that behind the podium. Biden was caught in a flat lie. There's 2 lies this week that he was caught in. That's one. The second one was him saying that he had no involvement in any of his son's business dealings with China and things like that. Then they found a voicemail where he left a voicemail message that was on the laptop. Biden's voice is plain as day saying, I think we're in the clear, or I think you're in the clear of this and this and this and this and this. In other words, he knew everything that was going on.
He did.
So he just flat lied out about that. I am so sick and tired of this stuff. I'm going to be transparent but then lying about it. It just blows my mind. The thing is, it gets me, is they took from our strategic oil reserves things that are in case of an emergency and sold it to another country that is trying to, basically, I hate to say it, take over the world, who is trying to destroy the United States economically. And we gave them the power to do it.
Yeah, and I heard that China is trying to buy land, state parks out here. And
one of the things back when Obama was president, he was talking about one of the ways that we could get out of debt is to sell some of these federal parks and stuff, land to China. That's the whole thing with now Biden is saying, well, the reason they did that is to lower our debt that we owe to China. So that's why they did the gas.
But why do we even have a debt to China? Do you know what I mean? Why do we have to send everything to China?
I don't know. Why do we have to live outside of our means?
That's a good question.
I mean,
that's a really big question.
You have your own, you guys have a certain set of income. We have a certain set of income. We have to live within our means.
Yeah.
Why does the country not? One other thing I don't understand is, like with Ukraine, they sent $14 billion and they sent another $50 billion. Now they're sending like another $19 billion. Where's this money coming from? We don't have enough money to provide support and income for our retired people who work their entire life and paid into a system their entire life, but yet they're living in poverty levels. Our vets living in poverty that served, that are disabled and things like that, living in poverty levels, but we have money to send $60 billion to another country. I don't get that. Where's this money coming from? Election time, all you hear about is so-and-so wants to push grandma off the cliff. But yet we have enough money to do this to other countries. Are we borrowing the money from China to help these other countries? If so, that needs to stop.
No, we're just printing it.
Are we printing it?
We're printing it.
There again, then inflation goes up. Well,
It needs to come out of Biden's pocket.
Well, they just showed that, hear Biden say that this is the gas prices and stuff is because of Putin. The food shortages are because of Putin. Well, Russia needs to release the corn. They need to release this and this. They went through and started looking at stuff, at the data of everything. All this happened. All this stuff started happening the minute Biden took office.
Right.
It was like, just like people were saying that everything that happened, the good things that were happening with the fuel, with the economy and everything else, was because of Obama. Because the minute Trump became president, it was like a light switch flipped and the economy just started stimulating and got better. We became energy independent. Now, the minute that Biden becomes president, well, what Trump did was because of Obama. Now, what's going on with Biden is because of Trump. No, come on.
That's because
you can't be that stupid.
No, it's because of the decisions his administration has put in place, and it's completely after a whole country.
Yeah, it's because of this Green New Deal. It's the Green New Deal. I understand. I understand renewable energy. If they want to go after solar and they want to go after wind and stuff like that, that's absolutely fine. Research it, but don't shoot yourself in the foot until that's developed. And that's exactly what they're doing.
I'm not opposed to green energy. What I am opposed
Nobody is.
And what I'm opposed to is it is not cost effective to make and ship the materials for windmills. It's not cost effective. By the time that the energy has renewed itself and you have paid off, it would have been years and years and years and years and years. I mean, I'm talking like hundreds of years in the cost that you're saving to have that. Like I saw a video about a guy who he works in solar, and he was explaining how it's not feasible. It costs more
To build
this new green energy.
And the emissions that are released in building it are worse than the emissions from what were fossil fuels that we're using right now.
Exactly. And then now you have these huge windmills per se. We'll just talk about windmills for right now, and then we'll get on to solar. So windmills, what happens when they're dead? They're a dud. Well, that's all because they're not metal.
They're polymers and fiberglass.
Exactly. They're fiberglass and polymers, which doesn't break down. You can't melt
hundreds of years.
Yeah, hundreds of years.
And you can't recycle it.
You cannot recycle it. So what do? They bury them. They bury them out in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's great for the environment? No. What about solar, right? Solar, the platinum that's in it, the materials that are in it, it's hard to mine that. It's also the panels, they die after a certain amount of time. They're not the longevity of them is maybe what, 7 to 10 years?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know that they do deteriorate over time.
Exactly. So it's not foolproof. The only thing that is foolproof is the fossil fuels that we currently have. And I'm not against electric cars. I think everything is great. But if we can create something that, is hydrogen based.
Well, the lithium and stuff that's used for these batteries and stuff in these cars is more toxic into the environment than a lot of things.
Yeah, and they can explode.
Yeah.
Just like a combustion engine. It's not safer.
That's what they were saying about even cell phones. You got to watch them. A lot of people thinking they had, you got to watch when you charge them. Don't keep your phone on your bed when you're charging it because it get hot. They were actually a thing they were showing on like some different cell phones that they just had sitting there. These phones that the batteries were supposed to be, quote, dead, that were turned off just sitting there, and a chemical reaction took place and it actually caused it to heat up where the phone would explode.
Mm-hmm.
We can't see the forest for the trees in a lot of things. But I'm all for green energy, but let's do it responsibly and not shoot ourselves in the foot and put ourselves in a situation where we are right now to do it.
And I just don't like the hypocrisy of the green energy either. It's do as I say, not as I do, as I fly in my jet across the country, blowing tons of chemicals and stuff into the air. Meanwhile, I use jet fuel to fuel my jet and my private car and this and that. It's not energy efficient.
Here's the thing. We can be as energy efficient as we want to be, but if the rest of the world doesn't do it either, it's not going to matter. Nope. And the two largest growing economies in the world right now are thriving off of fossil fuels because we're sending them oil. Again, China and India are the largest growing economies in the world, and they're using fossil fuels.
Yep.
So let's destroy ourselves and help them. I don't get that. Open up the pipelines, drill, baby, drill, open up some of these federal lands. Here's the thing is they said, somebody asked the question, why aren't more applications being approved by the federal government to do fracking and drill? And the Biden administration, Psaki comes out and says, oh, well, they are being approved. The applications are being approved, but the permits are not. So let's talk out of one side of our mouth and do something else over here. So we can say we're doing this, but we're really not doing it over here. When Trump was president, we were totally energy efficient. We were actually selling oil.
We were selling
and making money off of it.
I remember.
And they have shown all the stuff that the fracking and stuff, if done correctly, is not dangerous.
Nope.
The Keystone Pipeline. If they had let the Keystone Pipeline be built, well, I know they said, well, that's oil that comes from China or from Canada. Well, it's coming actually for them to get the oil out of Canada is a huge process because it's called sand oil or something like that. The oil is in very sandy environment to where it's very hard for them to extract the oil. But if we actually still had that pipeline and let them build it, that was, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of gallons a day that we go to refineries to produce gas, natural gas. And one of the things is one of the the cleanest energies we have that they keep trying to shoot and they want to shoot down is nuclear.
So, nuclear, nothing wrong with nuclear energy. It works, right?
Yep.
But I think it's the waste.
Well, the thing is the waste that's generated from that takes place. They've actually, the old nuclear factories such as 3 Mile and stuff like that, the waste from that is different than it is now. They're saying the new nuclear plants, the waste is very minimal, but what they have found out is that this waste that is generated from it, they can actually reuse it for such as medical equipment, x-ray stuff, things like that needs that radiation,
new radiation
kind of thing. It can actually be used for different things. It's not to that grade as it was before, but it actually can be used for other things. So it's actually dwindles itself down to where it's next to nothing.
That sounds like a win-win to me.
Oh, and it's it's an energy that's just always there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're talking about now they're talking about to where they could actually have nuclear facilities that instead of, providing energy for an entire half a state, might be a small facility that just produces enough energy for a city or for even a block.
Yeah.
Or, a certain grid amount, things like that. We've got to get this stuff off the main grid because all it takes is, they're talking about rolling in here. That's another, to me on that. They're talking about battery operated cars.
Nope.
Okay.
Won't do it.
We need to go to battery. We need these battery cars, these electric or the electric cars. But then in
California 2034, right? Or 2034. I think California is that's the new law. By 2034, their entire grid should be battery operated cars.
Okay, but here's the problem. Now they're saying that we need to turn our thermostats down. We need to turn lights off and do things like that because we may have rolling blackouts this summer because we don't have enough electricity. But we want everybody to go to electric vehicles. How much more stress is that putting on the grid? And this is something else I didn't think about. And I heard a person mention it and I started thinking about it and it makes sense. You know how they're talking about how the shipping and stuff is, there's ships that are sitting out off the coast of California, 100 miles offshore. We know some people that work in the grocery industry saying that the stuff that they're getting right now is stuff they've ordered a year and a half ago, and they don't know when the next is going to come in. And they're saying, we see shortages in the store, things like that. One of the reasons I'm thinking, I may be wrong. Don't take this is just my thought, my conspiracy thing. What did California do here? A law that they passed here just a year or two ago about truck drivers. You cannot be an owner operator and operate in the state of California.
Oh, so the union.
You have it has to be nationwide trunking companies. It can't be the owner operators and stuff. They contract to these companies. They make up the largest majority of it.
Well, yeah. I'm not a truck driver, but as a truck driver, owning your own truck, owning your own trailer, that's where you make the money.
That's where they make the money. But the thing is if the state says you can't be an owner operator and contract anybody now anymore, well, that eliminates over half of the truck drivers. So that means that stuff that's in California can't get out of there anyway.
Yeah,
it's limited. It's slowed down. Well, that could make sense on why our stuff is being slowed down.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe that's my conspiracy. Might be right, might be wrong. But you start putting 2 and 2 together. What they're telling us is always coming out equaling 5. 2 and 2. If you listen to everything the government tells you, 2 and 2 will never equal 4. Again, there's agendas, there's things that they want to pass. I'm tired of these bills that we write these bills, or they write these bills and these laws, and one person won't pass it unless they add their own little, piece to it. So the whole thing, when it's what is meant to be, is no longer that. But
speaking of bills, I think it was you who was talking to me about a bill that had passed where inside one of the new gun bills, it was going to allow all states to open carry. Does that sound familiar?
No, I haven't heard. It wasn't in any of this. I know they've been trying for a long time, some of the different ones, to do nationwide reciprocity. So if you have a CPL license in this state, there's 10 states that don't allow concealed carry. But with this new Supreme Court ruling, because some of the states out there, we have like shall issue, like Michigan is a shall issue state. Some of these other states were may issue. So because they're may issue, that means they don't have to issue. It's up to that state. They can set the guidelines so high that nobody could get it.
Mm-hmm.
But under this new ruling from the Supreme Court a couple of weeks ago, basically says that everybody has a right to protect themselves. So it kind of flipped them in a roundabout way to go from a should issue or may issue to a shall issue. So with that, they're starting to say, well, then we should be able to conceal carry in these states, which has always been the argument before, because if people are saying, well, if I have a driver's license that allows me to drive in that state, if I have a concealed pistol license or concealed weapons license, I should be able to carry in that state.
Right.
And that's the whole thing that they were trying to get passed. I think Trump was trying to get that passed, but I don't know if it never went through. So
would have been nice if it had come through.
Yeah. I mean, like they're talking about constitutional carry in the state. Well, the thing is constitution, like Michigan, if it ever becomes a constitutional carry state, that's fine. Where it basically says you can carry in the state without having to have a concealed pistol license. There's about 18 states out there now that have that, which I'm for. But if you're going to carry from state to state, then you still have to have that license.
Gotcha.
So, and there again, I have my own. I know people that are, I'm pro 2A, and I know people that say that everybody should have the right to carry a gun no matter what. Teach a few classes, teach a few thousand people, and you'll kind of
learn and recognize people that maybe shouldn't.
There's people out there that you're going, oh my goodness. But I think I personally think, and this is my point of view, that everybody, if you're going to carry concealed in public and things like that, you should go through some sort of safety training.
Absolutely.
If nothing else, just to learn what your state's laws are.
And learn the gun.
Learn
the firearm. Learn the safety behind it. Learn how to shoot it, how to prep it, how to clean it. You can't just go pick up a gun and then be like, I'm going to conceal carry it because it makes me feel safe.
You took my class. What did I tell everybody? If you're not going to continue to train and practice, then what? Don't even bother getting your CPL.
Right.
Because you're just going to be a hindrance to yourself and other people.
Yeah.
And I guarantee 95 to 97% of the people who take the class will never do anything to train again. They're just going to carry. May go to the range once a year or something like that, but that's as far as it'll go.
Yeah, now you got to keep up with the skills.
Yep. It's a diminished skill.
We do the holster drills at our house.
Yeah. If you look on the side of our safe, we have the thing where I told about the doing the dry fire practice. So you learn your trigger break and reset. Mm-hmm. We got the dot right on the side of our safe. Gun safe. These are things that we all practice. You've got to practice that.
Yeah.
So guys out there, continue to train. Doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are, any handicap. If you have these things, you need to train accordingly so that no matter what happens, that you can protect yourself. If you're going to protect yourself and protect your family, you might as well do it right. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I think we pretty much covered any of the topics and stuff that we're looking at tonight. Is there anything you want to add or anything you especially want to talk about?
Nothing, just kind of wrap it up. Like, I felt like we got a good understanding of what Roe versus Wade was and why the media is blowing out of proportion. Again, we're not abolishing abortion. We're just giving it back to the people in the state as removing it from a federal level, which it should never been in the first place. Mass shootings, they're sad. They're really sad. And, if there's a way to prevent them, I think that, the system shouldn't fail us and should take precautionary,
Well, I mean, if somebody really wants to commit a mass murder, like a mass shooting, they don't have to have a firearm to do that.
No, they don't.
That's already been proven with the guy that drove his car right down through the parade of people.
Yep. Or the guy in New Zealand that stabbed a bunch of people. Like, people will be evil people will be evil people, and they will find a way to carry out whatever evil it is that they want to carry out.
Well, I guarantee they start banning firearms, you're going to see violent crime, muggings, rapes, murders, things like that are going to go on the rise.
Yep.
They're going to rise because if people can't protect themselves, you're might as well you're taking the sheep right to the wolf.
You might as well just call your social worker now and just have them live with you and be at your side at all times, and hopefully they'll be able to talk to your assailant that is going to attack you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
That's what they wanted. Do you remember that?
Mhm.
They wanted more social workers to go and handle these situations instead of cops when they wanted to defund the police. That's what they wanted, social workers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you want this person that went to school to talk to people to go and handle a mugging. Sure. Sounds great. They're going to get mugged
Now
too,
let's get to the root of it. Why do you really want to mug this person?
because they need money for drugs.
Yeah.
That's and then they're gonna be like, well, okay, well, how does that make you feel? Well, I need my high. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna.
Look at
It's-
Portland. That's opened up and made it
Oh
more
my
free.
gosh.
My friend Matt and him and his son were in Portland. They were downtown, and his son, they were walking. I said, "Oh man, I can't believe somebody didn't pick up after their dog because there was a,
It wasn't dog.
and it wasn't dog, it was
No,
human.
Human.
It's like, come on."
San Francisco was like that way for a while too. There was they had like sanitation like trucks come in like every single night, and every morning they had to come and like clean off the streets because
Did you see in California? They're in California also,
Yeah.
where they have the train yards, where they have the trains, so they went into the train. And there's all the tracks are just covered in trash.
Yes,
You
I've
know,
seen that.
it's like-
Trash and Amazon boxes and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. They were breaking into trains and
And looting them.
looting them. People, it's just crazy. It is just crazy. Man, I mean, I'm 54 years old and life goes by quick, but I mean, think about it. Just 20 years ago, the difference it was. I mean, you're 31. So, even if you look at it the way it was 15 years ago or 10 years ago, you can see a difference. I can see a difference than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm scared for our kids. So
Gotta protect them.
got to protect them. It's their greatest asset. So, okay, well, that's pretty much it. I just want to thanks for coming in, Dylan. Appreciate having you.
Thanks for
Definitely
having
want
me.
you to come back. Guys, if you have any questions, anything out there, please feel free to send us a message at defensiveshoot.com or at my email, Jscrosby at defensiveshoot.com. Leave a message or a comment at the bottom of the video. I go through those. I'll get back and answer any questions. You can reach out to us anytime. Guys, if you want to hear more content, want to see more videos, reach down there and hit that button, that subscribe button. Then hit the bell over to the side and hit all so you'll be notified of any future videos once they come out. We're hoping to get to the point where our goal is to have one a week. It's been kind of hard with everything going on, holidays, family things going on, classes. But we're hoping to get there. We're trying to diversify a little bit, get some people coming in to help. We're only as strong as our weakest link. And if it's one person doing everything, makes it kind of hard. That's kind of why we didn't get going on doing the classes or the YouTube channel so long, because we just didn't have the time to dedicate. Things kind of slowed up and so we were able to do it. Then it picks back up. So we have to slow down. We just want to find that happy medium. So bear with us. We will get there. So you guys remember, stay safe, take care of each other, lift up each other, love each other. You guys, God bless. Have a good night.